Welcome! Today, we're going to peel back thousands of years of history to tackle two incredible mysteries from ancient India. We're going to figure out why a massive, advanced civilization just vanished, and then reveal the surprising secret that fueled one of the ancient world's greatest superpowers.
Okay, so our first mystery kicks off with the Indus Valley Civilization. And you've got to understand, we're talking about one of the world's original great cradles of civilization, right up there with Egypt and Mesopotamia. This was a sophisticated, absolutely sprawling society that for the longest time just kind of disappeared from the history books.
For decades, the story everyone accepted was pretty dramatic, a violent invasion that brought the whole thing crashing down. But is that what really happened? Well, the clues they left behind tell a very different and honestly a much more fascinating story.
All right, let's dive into this first mystery. To really get why their disappearance is such a big deal, you have to wrap your head around the sheer scale of their world. I mean, we are not talking about a few scattered villages here. This was a genuine urban powerhouse.
Just think about it. At its absolute peak, this civilization was home to as many as 5 million people. Their biggest cities, places like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, were total marvels of engineering. We're talking organized street grids, houses made from uniform baked bricks, and even complex citywide drainage and water systems. This was a seriously advanced society, which, just makes its collapse all the more puzzling.
So what happened?
Well, the old theory was this dramatic tale of invasion and conquest by nomadic warriors, the Aryans. It was a compelling story, for sure, and it fit a certain historical narrative for a while. But it started to completely fall apart the second archaeologists took a closer look at the actual evidence. See, the invasion theory pointed to all these unburied skeletons as proof of a huge, violent massacre. But modern analysis? It shows something else entirely. The remains were actually from hasty burials, which is kind of what you'd expect in a city that's facing a slow decline. And those marks on the skulls? Not from swords or clubs, but from thousands of years of natural erosion. The evidence of some great, epic battle, it just wasn't there. Hey, get this. Even the archaeologist who first came up with the invasion theory, Sir Mortimer Wheeler, he eventually had to admit that the facts on the ground just didn't back up his dramatic claim. In the end, science won out over a good story. So this wasn't some sudden, violent end. It was a slow, creeping, environmental change, a gradual drying of the whole region over centuries that slowly but surely choked off the water supply from the rivers they all depended on. The Indus Valley Civilization wasn't conquered, it just faded away as its people were forced to migrate. It's a pretty stark reminder that climate change has been shaping human history for millennia. So as one civilization fades, it makes way for new powers to rise. Centuries later, the Indian subcontinent would see the emergence of one of the ancient world's first true superpowers, the Mauryan Empire. But what was the secret that made them so incredibly dominant?
Let's just start with the army, because the numbers here are, well, they're just staggering. According to the historical sources, the Mauryans could field an infantry of 600,000 foot soldiers. That's practically an ocean of men. And that's not all. Add to that 30,000 cavalry. This gave them incredible speed and the ability to control enormous territories, letting them flank and outmaneuver their enemies like it was nothing.
And finally, you have the heavy armor of the ancient world, 9,000 war elephants, a terrifying, almost unstoppable force on the battlefield. I mean, can you even imagine facing that down?
Now, okay, while those numbers might be a little exaggerated, they still point to an absolutely immense military machine. But here's the twist. Was this massive army, all these elephants and soldiers, the real source of their imperial power? The answer is not exactly. The true secret to Mauryan dominance wasn't just about military might. Nope. It was something far less glamorous, but infinitely more important. A brilliant, ruthless, and just meticulously organized system of administration that kept that giant army in the field. Their strategy was so advanced that it was actually written down in this political manual called the Arthashastra. This text is a cold, calculated guide to getting and holding on to power. And get this, it predates similar famous works in Europe like Machiavelli's The Prince by over 1,500 years.
You can really see their genius for organization in how they ran their military. It was structured into 6 different administrative boards. You've got the ones you'd expect, right? Infantry, cavalry, chariots, elephants, even a navy. But it's that 6th board that was their true secret weapon, the commissariat. In other words, the Department of Logistics and Supply.
See, you have to remember, in the ancient world, the biggest killer on a campaign wasn't the enemy's spear, it was disease and starvation. An army that can't feed itself or stay healthy just collapses on its own. The Mauryans understood this better than anyone. Their real strength wasn't just battlefield tactics, it was supply chain management, a concept that would be right at home in any modern business school or military briefing today.
This incredible administrative machine is what allowed the Mauryan Empire to expand across almost the entire Indian subcontinent, and that expansion led to a single, brutal war that would change its greatest ruler and the course of history forever.
The Emperor Ashoka waged the absolutely devastating Kalinga War. The victory was total, but the cost was horrific, with over 100,000 lives lost. Ashoka was so shaken by the slaughter he had caused that he completely renounced warfare, converted to Buddhism, and for the rest of his long reign, he governed with a philosophy of nonviolence, or dharma.
And this leaves us with a truly timeless question. The Mauryan Empire was built on the cold, pragmatic statecraft of the Arthashastra, but its most enduring legacy was shaped by the moral principles of Ashoka's dharma. It's this fundamental tension, right? What's more important for a lasting empire? Raw power or guiding principles? It's a dilemma that leaders are still grappling with today.